What are your thoughts on a man who over is 40
Hmm?
plus, no kids, never been married? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm just gonna be real. I mean, when I run into that, a man that's never been married, I also look at it if he's never been engaged. So I'll even take it and kind of add that. I do think that's a red flag.
Mm,
Um, I think that's a red flag for women because it's basically a man that can't commit. And so for me, and I always say this, to me, one red flag does not throw someone out.
right,
I'm not going to throw somebody out for one red flag,
right.
but I do believe it is a red flag. Now, there are other stipulations to that. What if he was working on his PhD and it took him a long time? What if he's trying to become a doctor or a lawyer or something that takes a lot of education? Maybe he was in the military or something like that. So I think you have to add all those things up. But if he's having just a regular, normal, quote unquote, American life, and he's been out here from 18 to 40, so now he's had 22 years to have the opportunity to settle down with a woman or at least have a relationship that could lead to being a fiance, then to me, I do see that as a slight red flag. So I would, like I said, if it was my little cousin or my little niece or
Mhm.
some woman that was coming to me for advice, I would say, okay, that's a red flag. Don't throw them away, but that's a red flag, something for you to think about. So now I would ask, be like, can you go deeper into maybe why he's like that? Can you ask more questions to find out, okay, how did that happen? How did you get there?
Mhm. Mhm.
And see what he says about that.
Mhm.
Because I do think, we beat up on women a lot when they start to get close to 35 and they've never been married, but we don't beat up on men at all. And I think that it works really both ways.
Mhm.
And generally by 40, a man should kind of know who he is. He should kind of have established his career. So he shouldn't really have all those excuses about, okay, well, I can't do this and I can't do this and this, that, and the third. Instead, he should be focusing in if he cares to be married. Now, some men don't want to be married.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
Yeah,
So we got to think about that too.
that's
So, but if he truly says, "Oh, I've always wanted to be married. I've been wanting to be married since I was 25," then again, that's something for I think women to think about.
hmm Yeah, because I found it interesting because I had a guest on yesterday, Ezekiel Nzawu. Who was on, and we talked about that yesterday,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Hey, that it's pretty much like you were saying, those different kind of variables. You just kind of never know which, is he trying to be a doctor or
Hmm.
is it because he has access to women like that where he don't have to marry."
But see, to me, even if he has access to women, to me as a woman, and I know most women don't see this like this, but to me, again, that's a red flag. See,
Mm,
I'm gonna be real with you. I've never run into a true player, a true man that can get all the women he wants that ever stops.
mm,
I'm just being real.
mhm,
I have a few friends like that. They got married. They just cheat on their wives. They don't care.
mm, mm. Wow.
And like one of the things that I'm always telling women, because we all have these statistics, that says 80% of women are chasing 20% of men. And
Mm,
it's usually the 20% of men that they're chasing are really generally the players. Okay, they're the Pookies and what I call the Raymonds, which is just a high value version of Pookie. And
mhm,
so you have your Pookies and your Raymonds, and they're basically making the rounds, so
mhm.
to speak. And then the average guy doesn't get much play at all.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is the Pookies and the Raymonds, they rarely ever settle down, if at all. If they don't have a literal come to Jesus moment, okay, many of them continue to play around.
Mhm.
And so now women are marrying them, doing this, that, and the third, and they're thinking, oh, okay, he's changed. He's gonna settle down for me. And then she finds out, okay, he's cheated on me with five other women, and he got two other babies out there, and now she's stressed out about it. Okay, but see, let's be real. A lot of men are just like, well, you had a chance to pick the good dude, but you didn't want him, so you went after Pookie and Raymond, so that's what happened.
Wow.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. From men perspective, they're like, no, they don't pick the women don't pick the regular dude. And I'm like, it's just, and it's a luck of the draw because, you're right in some cases. I'm not. I'm definitely looking for boring and square. Amen. Haven't been.
Well, I mean,
I'm
I don't think you got to get bored and
You
square.
get
I
the
just
point
think,
though. I mean, I'm just being honest. You get the
yeah,
point because sometimes, we get to cultivate and develop our own version of fun. We don't got to
yeah.
go live in societal's version of how they project fun to be or what they project good is and things like that. That's all I'm stating. But in the essence, but I think I'm being honest with you, y'all, women really be out here looking for stuff like that. Like I'm looking for, I just want us to have a good time. And I think that those endorphins and looking for that high is
Mhm.
also, working against us, because then when you do have moments, like give you an example, having, dated a guy who was going to school to be a doctor, like believe it or not. So I think that's funny. He don't have kids. He's never been married, but he's actually still working on being a doctor. He's almost done. So the fact that but has been engaged, but he's talked about his experience. He's like, Aquila, most women don't want to be here and deal with some of the boringness that comes with my journey because I can't every week be out doing the version of dating that Instagram shows. you know
Yeah.
that's what I mean by boring. Like sometimes it's not as it when I was married, I got married at 18. When we were we bought our first house at 20, our life looked very boring.
Mhm.
Especially imagine being, a 20-year-old who we didn't go out. We were saving all of our little $2.50 because of the dream that we had to be homeowners at a young age. That just didn't look like everybody else's life. And sometimes that was hard to accept and deal with. That was hard. Like, I want to go outside too.
I want to play outside. Jay, this has been a phenomenal episode. If you can answer this question real quick, so I think well, yeah, let me know what you think, Jay. But Nikki Trubu had one last question before we end. She said, should you consider marriage to a divorced man that tells you that you remind him of his ex-wife?
Honestly, that doesn't really bother me. It
Okay.
just depends upon how he feels about his ex-wife. I think that's really
Mm.
the key. I'm just being real. I mean, again, I'll just give it from my perspective. When I finally got healed,
Mhm.
I recognized that if I ran into a woman that was about 80% of my ex-wife, I probably will be okay because if nothing else, I'm very comfortable
Mhm.
with that energy. I'm very comfortable with who she is. And now that woman would actually get the benefit of me taking time to reflect on what I did wrong and being able to give her a little bit more of what she needs to be healthy in that environment. But it's about has the man, and we all talk about doing the work and therapy and all this other kind of stuff. But, my thing is, has he come to that mature place,
Mhm.
where he can see it clearly?
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I always, say with people in general. It's kind of like, we sometimes people talk about love languages, and somebody might have a love language. I'm just gonna make up something crazy, but they might have a love language where they want you to write them love notes.
Mhm.
And what I find is people that don't want to write love notes will make up every excuse in the world not to write these love notes. They're just gonna make this big deal. It's like a big deal. And
Yeah.
it's like, dude, why is it a big deal? She wants the doggone love notes.
Mhm.
Just take one Saturday morning, write her out 10 of them, and then every other time you see her, give her one. So it might last a month. You writing them for 1 hour on a Saturday morning. Give the woman what she wants. Okay, same thing I tell women, give the man what he wants. As long as it's something that doesn't hurt you mentally,
Yeah.
physically, spiritually, or emotionally, I'm like, why aren't you down? If you
Mhm.
told me that you were thirsty and you needed water, and then I didn't give it to you, okay, what kind of person am I? How can I say that I love you?
Wow. Yeah. And on that note,
Listen, wrap this baby up and put a bow on it, okay?
I know, right, Jay?